Hello, welcome. I'm Nick.
I'm Jackson.
I'm Noah.
I'm Tyler.
And I'm Seahawks.
From Top Notch Sports, and today, welcome to the No Fly Zone, Week 4, Episode 2 of the No Fly Zone podcast. This is where all the dreams come true. Top Notch Sports, get the merch, coming soon. All right, listen, Episode 2, we had a good, successful Episode 1. It's showtime, ladies and gentlemen, and our first topic of discussion to kick this off is going to be Detroit Lions. Now, real fast, before we go to the Lions, I want to mention this. You're going to see some of these people come and go. We're going to have people getting added to the podcast and leaving the podcast. So right now, Noah's a Lions expert on the channel. We're going to go right away to the Detroit Lions. So the first topic of discussion for this podcast is, will the Detroit Lions be able to win that division? Okay, the NFC North. So Noah, I'm going to let you take it away first. What did you see last week and going forward? And ultimately, we'll wrap up at the end of this video. We'll all have our prediction. But right now, just looking at the Lions, from what you've been seeing, what are your thoughts on them?
I think it's going to be a close fight. Honestly, I think it's going to be a close fight between us and Green Bay. I don't think Minnesota's got it. I think, they've already dropped, 3 games already? And I just think it's going to continue to spiral downfield there. I think Green Bay is looking really nice, which is kind of what I predicted. I kind of thought, Jordan Love sitting behind Rodgers for a few years, he's gonna learn some stuff. I think their offense looks great. Their defense looks really good. I feel like they're one of the teams that if they can stay healthy and everything can kind of click for them, they can be at, anywhere from 9 wins to hell, even 11 wins if they want to, And I feel like Detroit's in that same kind of situation where it just kind of depends on how they play. They're their worst enemy. Personally, I think we're going to win the division just because I feel like we have better firepower on offense as well as defense. I feel like we have a way better offensive coordinator in Ben Johnson. Guy's a stud. I feel like the divisional games are 100% going to be honestly what decides who takes the division, who goes 4 seed in the playoffs, 3 seed, stuff like that. So I feel like, yeah. But I think we'll take it. Like I said, it's going to be a close finish, but I think we've got it in the bag.
Yeah, look, the Detroit Lions right now, you guys, so far this season, right? You beat Kansas City, which I know Jackson's not very happy about, but that's a tough win, Then you ultimately, you played the Atlanta Falcons, right, last week. You beat them, right? Again, that was a must-win game. You beat them.
Mm-hmm.
And then you did slip up against Seattle. And fortunately today, we'll actually go to them. Seattle, we got a Seahawks guy on here. So real fast, so Seahawks Orbit runs a page. Seahawks related. What did you see that game, Seahawks?
So I saw a very, intense battle between the Seahawks and the Lions. I think the Lions are a great team this year, and I think they're going to win their division very easily. Jordan Love's lack of experience is eventually going to catch up to him, and that is going to cause the Packers to finish with, I would say, a 9-8, 8-9 type of record, while the Lions finish with I would say 11-6, 12-5 type of record. I just really like what the Lions are building, and I think they could make a very deep run in the playoffs this year.
Okay, so again, in that game, though, look, I think the Detroit Lions are that team that can pound you in the face. Clearly that's what Dan Campbell wants to build, but then they also got explosiveness with Jahmyr Gibbs. You know what I mean? They got explosive with DJ Chark. You got Ross St. Brown, who's going to run those crossers and get you yards and underneath routes and yada, yada. And then you got Sam Laporta, who's going to get you the underneath routes and be really elusive after the catch. And you got all those guys. But really, at the end of the day, the offensive line and Dan Campbell want to punch you in the mouth. That's what they want to do, and that's what they're able to do. And if they get a little bit more explosive when a guy named Jamison Williams comes back, right? Oof. Oh my gosh. This team can be really special. So now let's go to another team that the Lions. So we got this one side, right? We talked to the Seahawks that beat the Lions. Now let's talk to a team, the Kansas City Chiefs that they beat the Chiefs. So Jackson, what's your take on the Detroit Lions? Again, this is a tough team, but overall take after watching that game specifically.
Yeah, look, and I saw that game in person, so I got to see, my own 2 eyes and how they're all, lines were functioning. And again, this team, they're coached very well, which I noticed off the get-go. There's not a lot of, dumb penalties that happen with this team. They're very well coached, and like you said, Dan Campbell, he wants to play tough. He wants to, he wants to just drive. He wants to bite those kneecaps. That's like you said, it's one of my favorite sayings. I think this Lions team is really good, and especially this past game against Atlanta, they held them to 6 points, which I think was really important after allowing 37 to Seattle. That the defense was able, just buckle down and hold it in. and hold Atlanta to 6 points. But with that being said, we've talked about the Packers on this channel quite a bit, and I've said I think the Packers are going to win the division. So I feel like I kind of have to stay right there. We're going to find out on Thursday night how these two teams match up against each other, because they are going to be matching up on prime time. It's going to be a really good game. It's going to be very important to the future of the division. I think it comes down to these two teams. You know, the Vikings, they're really talented offensively, but 0-3, it's going to be hard for them to climb out of that hole. But again, they're very capable of doing that. But overall, I think it comes down to the Lions and the Packers, and I'm going to stick with my prediction of the Packers.
There you go. I mean, again, I like the honesty. I mean, look, I mean, like you just said, you got the Packers and the and the Lions coming up toe to toe this week on Thursday night, 8:15 p.m. Eastern start. I can't wait. That's a game again. You know, last week I said I don't want to touch the Saints and Packers game. I'm not putting any money on that game that I did, and I picked the Saints, and I'm crying. And this is a game I'm saying I'm not going to put money on, but I got a profit boost the other night, so I am. And I'm so up in the air. I'm probably going to go Detroit for this one, but that doesn't mean they're necessarily going to win the division. I do think when Jameis Williams comes back, there's a good shot that this team ultimately does win the division. You know, to start the year, I didn't think Detroit. I thought that Detroit Lions, and again, I love Dan Campbell and everything, but I did think that Detroit Lions were getting a little bit too much hype. And I know that sounds weird because, you know, but everybody was on the Detroit Lions train. Everybody wants to see Dan Campbell succeed and everything. I think that they're getting overhyped a little bit. You know, but honestly, you look at what they've done. I mean, they beat the Chiefs, which I wouldn't have expected. They beat the Falcons, which I would have. And they lost to the Seahawks, which, I mean, again, going into the season, I think most people would say Detroit, you know, with the hype that they were getting, should have beat Seattle. The Green Bay Packers game is going to be a big one. This one can go either way. I mean, the odds are right down the middle. It's really, you know, it's up in the air. I'm interested to see what's going to happen. Now let's go to a Packers fan. This is perfect. This video, we literally got everybody, every one of your opponents. Tyler, you're a Packers guy. You know, we did predict the season for the Packers a long time ago. What do you think you're going to see from the Detroit Lions this Thursday?
Oh, boy. Well, Thursday night definitely doesn't help us with the injuries, though I did hear that Christian Watson and Aaron Jones will likely be coming back, which makes this matchup all the more exciting. And this could actually be a Thursday night football game that doesn't suck. So, woohoo. But I think it is going to be a very close game. I think it will be decided by 4 points or less. And I did have my prediction. I did have Detroit and Green Bay splitting, but I had both winning on the road. I had Detroit winning in Green Bay, and I had Green Bay winning in Detroit, and I'm going to stick by that. Obviously, I hope we win. Obviously. It's in Green Bay. I know we're a little ecstatic after coming back against the Saints without half our roster. So I do think we do have a chance in this game. I am going to stick with my prediction that Detroit wins, but obviously I'm hoping for the other way, obviously. But I'm going to stick by what I said, and that's final.
Yeah, I mean, again, I had you guys starting the season 3-1 and really starting the season 4-1, but you guys ultimately lose. I mean, you guys ultimately won the game against New Orleans, which I didn't think you would. And right now you guys are sitting at a, you know what I mean? Like a 2-1 record, which is kind of, you know, that's right where I had you going. I mean, I had you guys going 2-1. I just would have expected that you guys would have beat Atlanta and lost to New Orleans. And honestly, you know, you probably should have lost to New Orleans. And the Atlanta game, I'm not happy about that one for you guys. But this Detroit Lions game, I had this as a win. I did have this one as a win. But right now, you know what I mean? I'm going to say that I was probably wrong. You can't lose to Atlanta. You can't lose to Atlanta and expect to beat Detroit. You can't do that. And I'm going to go with the same as going for with looking at the Saints. I mean, again, that's a game that you win, right? It goes out as a win on the win column. But at the end of the day, you probably had no business winning that game either, going down 17-0. Noah, going back to you, okay? Because you're ultimately the guy. Again, I just want to be real clear. We're going to go around the room real fast. Are they winning the division? Yes or no? One more time.
I'm taking a yeah. I'm going to say yeah. I think we got it.
Jackson, fresh start. Yes or no?
You're saying I get a fresh start, but I'm still going to, go off what I said previously. I'm going to say Green Bay Packers.
Yes, I say I appreciate that. And again, I mean, you can kind of change with what you're saying. Just admit that you were wrong, but you're staying with Green Bay. I like to hear. All right. Seahawks, what do you got?
I got the Lions 1000% winning that division. The Packers are eventually going to fall off the cliff.
No question then. Nobody in this division makes a wild card, Seahawks?
I don't think so. No.
Okay.
Like
And
the Bears are.
say it again.
And I think I saw like a statistic that said like there's only 4 teams in like a certain amount of years that started 0-3 that actually ended up making the playoffs at all.
For sure. Absolutely.
And so actually really.
No, it is. I mean, 0-3 is not a good start. I mean, it's going to be tough. The only team that I can see possibly crawling out of it in this division will be the Vikings, right? The Bears aren't coming out of it. Last but not least, Tyler, what do you got?
I'm going to say Detroit wins the division. Obviously, I want Green Bay to win the division, but look, a wild card would make me happy. Anything more would be a bonus.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, I'm going to be honest with you. You got 2 tough teams in the Vikings and the line. I mean, and the Packers, right? Knocking at your back door. But looking at it right now, I mean, you're sitting at 2-1, right? You got the Packers on Thursday. That's going to be a huge, huge game. A loss there can completely change everything. But I'm going to say this right now with the chance, I mean, with, Jameson Williams coming back soon and everything kind of looking up right now. You beat the Chiefs, which is a tough team to beat. You lose to Seattle, which, again, I wouldn't want to say that, like you want to win that game, right? 6-point game, okay? But you want to win that one. Looking forward, man, I mean, you got wishy-washy schedule. I mean, you got Green Bay, you got to win that one. You got Carolina, you're probably going to win that one. Tampa's tough this year. As bad as we all thought they were going to be, they're tough. So, again, but you got to win that one. Baltimore, you may lose that one. Still a winnable game. Still a winnable game. Las Vegas, got that one in the bag. LA Chargers, tough. That's a tough one. Chicago, division opponent, who knows? They can steal it. I don't see it happening. Green Bay again. New Orleans is tough. Okay. New Orleans is tough. Especially if Derek Carr's back. And again, you play him in December. I don't know if is that one in Detroit or New Orleans? Is anybody? The last one was
in New Orleans.
Yeah, it's in Louisiana.
So, I mean, that one's definitely going to be, going to be more sided towards them because it's not going to be in cold weather in Detroit in December. And then you got the other few games. You got the Bears, the Broncos. Broncos should probably be a win. The Vikings are tough. Dallas is going to be tough. And then you end the year again with Minnesota. So ultimately, what do I think? I think that you guys win this division. Right now, looking at it, I do think you win the division. I don't know if I would have said that at the beginning of the year. Minnesota, I think, is really falling off right now. And who's the other team? And the
Chicago.
I had the Packers going 9-8, in the offseason. So I still feel like they'll be right around that spot. But I will say, as of right now, I will go with the Detroit Lions winning the NFC North. That's all from us. Anything else, Noah, specifically? I'll leave this to you since this is your last video here with us today.
Just before I leave, I'll say I think if we do win the division, I think it's going to be, the defense is what's going to win us the division. It showed against Atlanta. We had 7 total sacks. We had 6 different players produce a sack. I know Atlanta's offensive line isn't phenomenal, but they do have some pretty good guys. They got Jake Matthews is at least a pretty good offensive lineman. So they have a lot of good guys that can make blocks for them. It's just you can't take the sacks like that. And if the defense can continue to produce like that and continue to get turnovers, 4th down, 3rd down stops, stuff like that, that's what's going to win us games. That's what's going to win us the division. And if we make playoffs, that's what's going to win us playoff games. The offense can put up 30 points a game, but when the defense plays like we did against Seattle, there's nothing you can do about it. So that's all for me, guys.
No, that's it. And listen, I'm going to say this again. When Jameson Williams comes back and you have your running back, Jahmyr Gibbs, that offense is only going to get more explosive, which is going to really help out this team, make it strong. I'm
excited, man.
End of the year and also into the playoffs. All right, here we are. Segment 2 of our episode 2 podcast. Right now we're bringing in Kyle. Kyle, welcome. Tell them a little about you. You're a Saints expert, and we're going to the Saints. So welcome.
How you doing, everybody? My name is Kyle Besson. I run 504 Saints on Instagram. That's my own personal blog, but I'm also a contributing writer for Canal Street Chronicles. If you guys like to check out any of my articles or any more information about the Saints, it's over there.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, phenomenal page. I highly recommend going over there. This segment, and again, we got our expert here, which is great. We're going to talk about the Saints. We're going to say, can the New Orleans Saints win the division, the NFC South? It's going to be a really, again, this was supposed to be the laughing stock of the league division. It's not looking so bad over there. It's looking like it's decently tough. So, Kyle, I'll let you break it away. Start away right now. Derek Carr goes down. I mean, I'm rooting for that guy as a former Raiders, not former Raiders fan, as him being a former Raider. And, I mean, at this point, I am a former Raiders fan. But go ahead. Let us know what you think. Injury, AC, joint sprain. Can Jameis hold the fort down while he's out?
All right, so let's get into the Jameis part, coming up because I think we go into that and then we can go a little longer. So I want to start up by saying Derek Carr isn't the reason the Saints won the first 2 weeks, and I mean he was big in the last minutes in the second quarters in general. I think coming into the game he was like 78 passing percentage, like 500 yards and the one touchdown. Uh, but I thought it was going to take time for him to. It's a new system very similar to the old system he ran, but it is a new system, new team, everything. So I figured he was going to struggle in the beginning, and numbers wise, it looked like it did. He struggled a little more in the Panthers game than in the Titans game and the Packers game. But I figured coming into this Packers game, he was going to take a step up. He had more time in the system, and it was looking that way. He only had 4 drives on offense, scored on 50% of them. And he looked better. It looked better. The offensive line is still having their struggles though, and that's really concerning after 3 weeks. And it's been bad. I think the offensive line's averaging like 4 sacks a game.
Yeah.
Not good. So your quarterback's going to get hurt when that happens. So here comes Jameis Winston coming back in the system. I'm going to say something that could be a little controversial right now. I know everyone might not agree with me, but I think Jameis for at least 1 or 2 of these games, if it's only one, the injury span is going to be 2 to 6 weeks. But I think Jameis for these games can look better than what Derek Carr did. Jameis has been in the system for 4 years. He was a starter going into the season for 2 seasons now. I think, he's got more time in the system to get it rolling. He knows how the system works. All Jameis has to do is not throw the Saints out of games. And, I mean, watching last season, that's what Jameis did. He had that back injury, so some people would excuse him on that, but he was just forcing the ball downfield. But I think Jameis going into this Buccaneers game probably looks better than what Derek Carr did for the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's possible. I'm gonna go with this real fast, right? Because again, I've been watching Carr for years, and I know his strengths and his weaknesses. New system again, right? I mean, this guy, we knew it was going to happen. He's going to the Saints. So, I mean, you got to start all over again. Pete Carmichael, Dennis Allen, same head coach, right? I guess you can't say it's a new head coach. He's had him before. So, he still only has had 9 different head coaches because Dennis Allen was his first one he ever had. But a different offensive coordinator. So, now he has had 9 different head coaches, 9 different offensive coordinator in 10 seasons. I believe this is his 10th season in the NFL. Here's my thing about Derek Carr, okay? And again, like you said, it wasn't him winning you games, right, necessarily, because the Saints defense, I'm telling you, they're top 3 in the national football. I think you can argue that they're the number 1 defense in the league. What they did in the second half was crappy last game, but again, the offense was sputtering out of control, and when that happens, it puts a lot of pressure on the defense. This is what I will say. When it came down to Derek Carr having to make a play, he made a play. And that's what won you week 1 with Rashid Shaheed. That's what won you week 2, I believe it was Chris Olave. And last week
Shaheed.
Was it Shaheed? I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. I'm double move again to Shaheed. Yes. So, and then you got this week, and Jameis Winston's there, and you're up 17-0, and you just need that, right? They got a final drive to go down the field, and they got into field goal range. But where's that play to put the icing on the cake? At any part in that fourth quarter, you need him to put the game away. And I know Carr wasn't winning games, or he wasn't winning by 3 possessions, but he did enough to win the game. And that's what the Saints needed to bring in, a guy that could do enough to win a game. And Carr was able to do that. And I saw him do that time and time again with the Raiders. He has the most fourth quarter comebacks since he came into the National Football League. Never had a top 20 defense. He finally has all that in New Orleans. And, now he gets hurt. And it just stinks because that offensive line, just as well as I do, they need to improve. And hopefully these next 2 weeks, they can improve while he's not there. And hopefully when he comes back, they're ready to go. But Jackson, real fast, I'm going to go to you now. Being a Chiefs fan, and playing against Carr 2 times a year for the last, 8, 9 seasons now. You and me have talked many times. I mean, what have you seen from this guy, and what do you think he can bring to New Orleans?
Look, Derek Carr, he's always the guy, I always dislike the guy as a Chiefs fan, him being the quarterback of the Raiders. But the guy, he always kept the Raiders in the game when they were playing the Chiefs, whether it would be, they were down in the game and they would end up coming back in the fourth quarter, or whether they just stayed right on the Chiefs' tail the whole time. But I think that's what the Saints have gone out of Derek Carr so far, is he's kept them in the game. And when you, like you said, they have a top 3 defense, potentially the best in the NFL, they're going to win games that way. Another point I do want to talk about, though, is Alvin Kamara coming back this week, and I think that's huge for this offense. I think it's really important that they get him the ball out of the, in the pass game, because the last 2 years, his numbers have gone down, receptions and targets. And part of that, I think, is because Jameis Winston was playing more. I think he kind of has a hard time, trying to find his running back. And I think Derek Carr would do a great job at that. But with Jameis Winston coming in and Alvin Kamara coming back, I think it's really important that Jameis finds Alvin Kamara out of the backfield.
Absolutely. And another thing I will mention is that Carr, throughout his time in Oakland and Las Vegas, I mean, look at Jalen Richard's numbers. And they're like, Jalen who? Yeah, Jalen Richard. Look him up. I mean, the dude was the reception king over there. And who is he talent-wise, right? He's not Alvin Kamara. So imagine what he's going to be able to do with Alvin Kamara, who is an elite running back in the National Football League. And especially, he has good hands that can run good routes. So this is a guy. And know what's another thing about Kamara? His acceleration is extremely fast. I've seen this guy go from like 0 to 100 like this, going around the edge of the end zone. So like on a toss or something, extremely quick. Let's hop into Tyler real fast. And I want to get back to Kyle because, I mean, this is his team. But Tyler, you just saw the Saints. You're a Packers guy. What do you think? I mean, you guys had no business winning that game. Am I right?
We had no business winning that game, but guess what? We beat them. We probably should have beat Atlanta, so I guess it cancels out. But back to the main topic, I think with Alvin Kamara coming back, that will be a major upgrade for this offense. And I'm not going to say they easily win the NFC South. I still think Tampa can be competitive. I still think that the Falcons can play in games. Really, the only team that I really think don't have a chance right now is Carolina, just because the 0-3 hole is so hard to claw your way out of. But I'd say with that elite defense, as you said, arguably the best defense in the NFL, they've had 13 straight games of holding their opponents under 20 points or less, which is incredible in today's NFL. I think that the Saints ultimately win the division. Now, I do think it will be a dogfight. I do think it will go till at least, let's say, week 15 of this season. I think it's going to be a battle all the way because, again, we don't fully know how good these teams are. We're only 3 weeks in. So I still think it's a long way to go, but if I had to choose a team to win the NFC South, I'm gonna take the New Orleans Saints. I think they have all the pieces there to get to the playoffs and to win the division.
Awesome. All right, now real fast, we're going to go down Seahawks orbit real fast. We're on the Seahawks page, completely out of the area here, right? NFC guy, and we'll go right back to Kyle after this, and we'll wrap this up, and we'll all do our final takes and our rebuttals. But Seahawks real fast, seeing the Saints, I don't know how much you were able to watch them the last few weeks. What's your take, on the Carr injury, how they've been looking, and what's your whole thing? Without saying who's going to win the division yet, what's your take on the Saints?
I think the Saints look overall fine. I think Carr can keep them in games, like some people said. I think they have some nice pieces on offense. I just don't know what to really think of the Saints yet because, like someone else I think it was like Tyler that said that we're only like 3 weeks into the season. And so I don't think I have enough information on the Saints just yet to say whether they are actually good or not. But I think they look fine.
All right, there you go. All right, going back to Kyle, what else? Do you have anything you want to add first before we make our final claims here?
I just kind of want to add on to the Alvin Kamara thing because I would love Alvin Kamara, and I think his comeback will elevate the offense. But as mentioned, his numbers have gone down for the last couple years, and there is a reason for that. In receiving and receptions, he's been asked to carry the ball like 15, 20 times a game. And you don't want Alvin Kamara doing that. Alvin Kamara, you want him 9, 10 carries a game, give him his 6 receptions a game. That's his sweet spot. Because if Kamara's running the ball 20 times a game, you can't throw him the ball 6, 7 times. Bro's not going to live for 2 more weeks if he keeps getting hit 27 times a week. So Kamara needs that running game. Jamal Williams, the Kendra Miller, that running game needs to get going. It has not gone anywhere past Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill is leading the Saints with like 19 yards right now. We have no running backs are contributing, and a lot of it's that offensive line. Big problem there. But when Jamal Williams comes back, he's going to need to carry the ball. Kendra Miller's going to, and that's why the Saints got this three-headed monster now. You need to be able to take the weight off Alvin Kamara so he can do what he can do in the receiving game. And so I just wanted to make sure I was clear that I don't against the Bucks. Kendra Miller is going to have to take big workload, so when Kamara comes back, he can do what he can do in the receiving game.
Yeah, Jamal Williams is hurt right now, right? And I've seen the pleasant surprise so far, honestly, they made. Week 1, I didn't want to say it, but Tony Jones has not looked. I'm not saying he's good. I'm just saying he's honestly played decent for this team in relief of not having Jamal Williams and Alvin Kamara. I mean, honestly, last game, I think Tony Jones looked a little bit better than Kendra Miller. I mean, I don't know what the numbers were like, but I remember watching, and Taysom Hill, of course. I mean, he can do everything. So, I mean, you got him too. So, all right, let's go to here. Okay, here's our final thing. Will they win the division? So I'm going to start. We're going to leave Kyle for last. We're going to go in this order. Tyler, we're going to go Jackson, Seahawks, we'll do me, then Kyle. So, Tyler, do the New Orleans Saints win the division? Just wrap it up one more time. I know you already said it, but what do you think? Yes or no?
I believe the New Orleans Saints will take the division in time. They have a pretty well-rounded roster. My only concern is the offensive line could definitely make things a lot more difficult than they should be.
Absolutely. Jackson?
Yeah, look, I do think the Saints will end up winning this division when it comes down to it. When you have a defense like the Saints have right now, the sky's the limit. They have a chance to win every game. With a defense like that, they have a chance to be in every game. So, yeah, overall, I do think they will win the division. Defense is going to carry them.
Seahawks, what do you think?
I do not think the Saints will win the division. I'm going to stick with my take earlier on in the offseason. I think it's going to be the Falcons that end up winning the division.
There you go.
I really like the they have over there, especially on offense.
All right. Look, here's my thing, right? Losing that game really stinks because they got a decently tough schedule. I mean, it's not tough, but that's a game you got to win. You're up 17-0 going into halftime. How long Derek Carr is out for and Jameis Winston goes in for relief is going to be the huge question here, right? But we got to kind of predict what we got. Me personally, again, you guys can disagree. I think that this is going to linger on a little bit. He'll play through it. He will never complain about it. That's just the guy Carr is. It's going to affect him a little bit throughout the season. It's his throwing shoulder. Okay, most quarterbacks complain about non-throwing shoulder injuries. This is his throwing shoulder. It's the ACL joint sprain. It's nothing too terrible. It's still going to bother him, right? NFL quarterbacks, the littlest of things can either make you win a game or make you lose a game. This is going to hurt him a little bit. Going to really have to play through the defense now, right? Maybe it might not be able to get as much zip onto the football that you might have saw him throw that ball to Jimmy Graham that game for the touchdown. He put a lot of zip on that one. That thing was like 113 miles per hour. What I'll say is this. Yeah, Buccaneers next week with Jameis, that's going to be tough. New England the week after. New England's a tough defense. And with Bill O'Brien running that offense, it's a lot better than what it was. And Belichick now running the defense. I mean, it's going to be a tough game. If those two games are with Jameis, God, I mean, you might start off the season 2-3. I hope not. Dude, I'm hoping the most for this Saints team. I want to see this team make the playoffs. Ultimately, I do. And then you got Texans and then Jacksonville. I know Jacksonville hasn't looked great, but they're tough. Indianapolis has been winning games, right? So Houston just beat Jacksonville. You play them after the Patriots. It's not easy, right? The only easy team on this schedule is the Carolina Panthers. honestly. So, and honestly, that was a tough game for this team. I'm praying that everything goes right. And I really do hope the New Orleans Saints win. I'm going to say Derek Carr, when he gets back, they're going to get on a little bit of a roll. This defense is going to play tough. I think the New Orleans Saints ultimately win the division. I do think so. And if they don't, it's just don't start chanting to get Carr out of New Orleans. Give him time. Let him heal up. Next season will even be better. But I'm telling you now, I think the Saints will make it. And I hope they make a hell of a strong push. Kyle, let's sum it up. You are the guy. What do you think?
I think it's important when looking at this question, you don't just look at the Saints and you look at everybody else. I know, I think it was Tyler gave praise to the Buccaneers, and the Buccaneers are 2-1 right now, which is impressive. But when you look at the Buccaneers, they beat the winless Chicago Bears, they beat the winless Minnesota Vikings, and they got curb stomped by the Philadelphia Eagles. And if what you guys are saying and you believe the Saints have the best defense going into Tampa next week, the Eagles allowed 11 points to Tampa. So, and one of those was slightly garbage time. It was. So I believe the Saints win the division. I believe they'd win it by 2-3 games. I think you got to look at the opponents. Falcons are probably the biggest threat to me, but the Falcons coaching staff does not trust Desmond Ritter. If you watch these games, Desmond Ritter is not allowed to throw the football. Desmond Ritter is not allowed to put that football down 10, 15 yards. And then when it goes to that and all your teams have like offenses, you got to compare the defenses. And none of these defenses are – the Falcons have a pretty good defense, but they aren't the Saints' defense. And that's what I think is important to look at, is you have to look at the best part of each team, which is all these teams are probably going to be the defense, and the Saints have the best defense. The offense for each team, I like Bijan Robinson. Bijan Robinson looked great. It looked exactly how everybody thought he would look. But Desmond Ritter's not allowed to throw that football. So I think you have to be able to throw the ball in this league, and the Falcons aren't doing that. So I think the Saints win the division. You've got the best quarterback just because he's the seasoned vet. You have, if not the best weapons in the league, which, I mean, Michael Thomas, Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, Juwan Johnson, Alvin Kamara. I believe they're the best weapons in the NFC South. But if you don't believe they are, they're the second. And that's why I ultimately believe they win the division.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And look, I'm praying for you Saints fans. I really am. You guys deserve it. Dennis Allen, Pete Carmichael. And here's one other thing. I just want to throw this little tiny Easter egg in here. It's not going to happen, but just something to play around with. You saw the Saints bring in a lot of guys from the Las Vegas Raiders, right, to make Derek Carr feel comfortable. I mean, you saw him bringing Foster Moreau. You saw him bringing Brian Edwards, who no longer there. You saw him bringing Jonathan Abram. My question is this. Do you send like a fourth round pick and maybe try to bring in a Hunter Renfrow? I'm not saying, look, probably not going to happen. They don't need him. But, man, he's not being utilized in Las Vegas. Kyle, I'll let you touch on this one for like.
I do want to break because this has been going on Twitter for so long, and there's just one guy who posts about it so much. Look, a Hunter Renfrow type of receiver is cool. Is he getting paid like what, 10 million, 11 million right now?
Yeah,
I think he's getting paid around 11 million. So the Saints probably don't want that on their hands as it is. You're paying Michael Thomas right now 10 million. And Michael Thomas is on a 1-year deal right now. He might be out after this season, but so you don't bring in a Hunter Renfrow to replace a Michael Thomas, right? You need the big body receiver. But I've been going on Twitter and I see this so much, and I'm like, I want to respond, but I'm like, I'll stay off it. Hunter Renfrow is just, with the weapons the Saints have now, I don't think he's the right move. Too much money to pay. He's going to take away some snaps from your big playmakers. He's more of a – I don't even know who I would compare him on to the Saints. I guess I kind of like Chris Olave with route running wise. So, you don't want to take snaps away from Chris Olave if Chris Olave could be out there.
Yeah, right now, who's playing? Is it Shaheed playing in the slot, though? I mean, Olave and Thomas are on the outside, right? Or Olave kind of flips a little bit.
They really do fluctuate everybody in different spots, so you get different looks every time. I think Olave would probably be your slot guy half the time. Shaheed's probably there. I know MT takes some time in the slot because MT could. Your nickel corner is just getting cooked. I mean, it is what happened. Michael Thomas is a big body guy, box him out and get and they'll usually throw the hitch to Michael Thomas if he's in the slot. That's really what it looks like.
I've seen too much. What game was that? I think that was week 2. Just hitch route.
Panthers.
Yeah.
I was really annoyed with that because I think your play call is you're trying to get the ball out fast. Your offensive line is struggling and they're hitting a lot of hitches, and you can't get much after hitch. So you throw a hitch, you get 5 yards, and you continuously do it. And they were getting the 5 yards, but if you get the ball into your playmaker's hands fast, you want to hit him with a crosser, slant, something across. You let him make a move. That'll get you.
Absolutely. Or eventually, I was waiting for them to dial up that double move sooner in the game rather than right at the end. So, I mean, again, we see Carr has one of the most elite deep balls. I'm telling you, in the National Football League, he was ranked the #1 deep ball passer. I believe it was in 2020 coming out. I mean, he was rated the highest for 20-plus yard throws down the field. Give him a shot with Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, Michael Thomas. Man, it's a special team. All right, here we go. Our third segment of the day is the Jacksonville Jaguars. Should we press the panic button? And we brought in our Jags expert, the Jags Network, to come in. Jags, how you doing?
Good. How about you?
I'm doing all right. All right, listen. Should we be pressing the panic button from everything that you know, you've been watching, you've been hearing? I'll let everyone talk about it, but to start, let me go right to our expert. What do you think?
I would say, yeah, and especially if we don't win this week, we have a tough game against the Falcons. They're a good team. I think we should win, but if we don't, it's gonna get ugly.
Yeah.
And it could, because then we have the Bills, and then we're coming back to a tough divisional matchup, and then Thursday, a short week against the Saints. We could find ourselves in a hole early into the season, just like last year. And I don't know if it's going to be as easy to come back from this as we play like 49ers, Bengals, Ravens later in the season.
Yeah, I'm looking back at our video that we made together. And I had the team finishing. Let's just see what we both had. I had them going it says 10-6. Maybe 10-7. I wonder we both had them.
I had 10-7.
Yeah, we might have both had him going 10-7.
I think you had
sorry, I had 11-6 actually.
Yeah.
But I had him beating Indianapolis to start the year, losing to Kansas City, which did not happen. I'm sorry. Yeah, no, sorry. I'm sorry. I got that backwards. Yes. Houston. What? That just clipped off for me. I'm sorry. I'm trying to look at it and it's not paused. Here we go. I had you guys beating Houston, which did not happen, unfortunately. I had you guys beating Atlanta. And then I have you guys going on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 4-game lose streak before the bye. So, I mean, again, I don't know. Buffalo's tough. Indianapolis, if they bring back Jonathan Taylor, that's going to be a tough game. The New Orleans Saints, if Derek Carr's healthy, that's going to be tough. And the Pittsburgh Steelers can figure out how the hell to move the ball on offense with Matt Canada. That's going to be a tough game. So you do got a really tough stretch coming. And you just mentioned, it doesn't get any easier this week. Especially, I mean, look, all right, we can both sit here right now and say, the Atlanta Falcons aren't great, but you can argue that they're better than Houston, and you just lost to Houston. So, I mean, what's your opinion going into this week? I mean, do you feel comfortable that you guys are going to win this game?
I mean, I should be feeling comfortable, but after how we played against Houston, we really gotta fix some things up, especially the drops. The blocking has looked ugly, just the whole offense, and I think Doug Peterson needs to go back to calling plays because Press Taylor, I don't know.
Yeah. No, I have a friend that's a Jags fan, and he said Press Taylor's been absolutely horrible for you guys. So I don't know why Doug Peterson is not calling the plays, to be quite honest with you.
For sure.
All right, Jackson, going to you. I mean, you guys played these guys week 2. What did you see from Jacksonville that week? I mean, it was a close game, but Jacksonville ultimately lost. In a game that they probably honestly could have won. So what's your take on that one?
Look, my whole thing I brought from that game was, hey, the Jags might have, pretty solid defense. And then you turn around the next week and Houston goes and drops 37 on them. So I really don't know what to think about this Jags team right now. Looking at one of the offensive numbers, one of them that just sticks out to me blatantly is just their 29% third down rate is really not great. And like you said earlier, there's some drop issues that could be costing him third downs. I haven't been watching the Jags games other than the 1 week 2, so I'm not really too sure what, the third down situations are. But you got to be better on third down. You can't be only converting 29% of them. Like we've talked about, they have a really tough schedule coming up in the next few games. Atlanta, and that game's in London as well, so they're flying across the pond, which it's a lot of travel, and you don't know what that's going to do to the players. And then Buffalo, Indianapolis, New Orleans, and Pittsburgh. It's a really tough stretch before the bye. And, if they drop 3 or 4 of those, all of a sudden, like you said, they're in the hole that they dug themselves in last year. And you don't know if they're going to win 9 or 10 games in a row again. That's just not likely in the NFL. I would maybe press the panic button just a little bit, as a Jags. If I was a Jags fan, I probably would be panicked just because of how the offense is looking so far. Doug Peterson, I didn't know Doug Peterson wasn't calling plays. That's definitely an issue. I think Doug Peterson should be calling plays because this offense on paper is way better than what these numbers are showing.
Yeah. And look, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to mention one more stat. So remember, you just said 29% on third down. Dirty P likes to roll the dice on fourth.
Oh, yeah.
16.67% on fourth down. Tied for last in the league with Indianapolis. The only two teams below them is Baltimore and Arizona, which is 0%. But again, I mean, we know that Dirty P is a guy that likes to go 4 on fourth, especially if they don't get it on third. They haven't been able to do either. So, I mean, again, it's not that you're relying to pick it up on fourth. It just shows you this team, when it gets to you have to convert, they can't convert. And that's an issue. It's an issue. You got ETN, you got Tank Bigsby, you got Evan Ingram, you got Calvin Ridley, you got Christian Kirk, you got Zay Jones, and this team can't move the football that well. And again, this offense should be great, right? I have Trevor Lawrence as a top 3 quarterback, but somebody here didn't. So, Kyle, I'm going to let you break out, man. What do you think? I mean, you've been saying it now for a while. You're just not that high on Trevor Lawrence. I'm not going to speak for you. Speak for yourself. What do you think?
Okay, so it was a tweet that surfaced last year or during the offseason that really started this all. People were mad Trevor Lawrence wasn't ranked the top 10 quarterback in Madden. And I went in the comments. I put, "Hey, I don't agree with you. I don't think it's crazy he's not ranked top 10. I think everybody has an expectation Trevor Lawrence makes the leap to top 10 quarterback. A lot of it comes from that playoff game where he came back big and won, but in spite of himself. But the expectation is Trevor Lawrence takes a leap to be a top 10 quarterback, top 5 quarterback, and that's okay to have that expectation. I believe he could be a top 10 quarterback, top 5 quarterback, but he's not there yet. He hasn't taken that leap yet. He was a good quarterback, I believe ranked the best quarterback through their win streak last year, but that's a hot streak. The playoff game, they would have blown the Chargers out had he not thrown those 4 interceptions. It would have been a different story. He came back from what he put them into. So he faced adversity, but it was adversity that he gave himself. I don't think Trevor Lawrence is there yet. You can name 10 quarterbacks right now. Give me like 5 minutes. I'll give you 10 quarterbacks. A lot of them will be but there can be 10 quarterbacks better than Trevor Lawrence. I don't think he's there yet. I think he can make that leap. But right now, as a 1-2 Jaguars team, it's not looking like he's made that leap just yet.
Yeah, I mean, look, I said 3. No, I had him ranked as 4, and that doesn't mean he's the 4th best quarterback. My ranking was based off talent, purely talent, and game day preparation. So what do I mean by game day preparation? Like, Kyler Murray is one of the most talented quarterbacks in the National Football League, right? He can run, he can throw, he has a good arm, right? He's talented, but he's not really, when it comes down to reading the defense and stuff, he's definitely lower on that list, right? So you got to lower him down a little bit, right? Trevor Lawrence is very talented, and he can read a defense. So I feel like he's one of the most talented quarterbacks in the league. That doesn't mean he's the best quarterback in the league, right? Being talented versus best is 2 totally different things, correct? I mean, we can all agree with this. My whole idea of talent is you got to take every player and put them in the same position, same team, same weapons, and see how they are. I do think Lawrence is a top 5 quarterback. I have him at 4. I still think he's there talent-wise. He just needs to start playing better, and I do think it might start with play calling. Doug Peterson needs to start calling plays again. Here we go. Tyler, what's your take on this team? I mean, we won't say panic button yet, but I'm saying, what do you think, just strictly watching the Jags a little bit, if you have or whatnot, what are you feeling about the Jacksonville Jaguars? We got 2 minutes and 30 seconds to sum up this video. So what's your quick take on this team?
So, yeah, as everyone has pointed out, the offense has looked very sluggish, especially with all of the very talented pieces the Jaguars have at their disposal. They just aren't putting up the results that everyone expected and definitely what Jaguars fans wanted to put up. But I'm not going to say panic button yet. I did not know that Doug Peterson wasn't calling the plays, which, with already being a head coach, calling plays is just, another thing to add on the list to being an NFL head coach. I feel like it's not as easy as everyone makes it out to be. So whatever the reason Press Taylor was given the play calling, I don't know. Probably none of us know. But I wouldn't hit the panic button just yet. And I know it was easier for them to come back and make a surge late last season than this season because, again, the Jaguars had a 4th place schedule last year and they have a 1st place schedule this year. But I do think, especially in a wide open AFC South, that they still are the most talented team. They just have to put it together. And do I think they will put it together in time? Yes, but it may take longer to, get to that point than anticipated. But
Yeah.
I still feel pretty confident in them.
Yeah. All right. So real fast, we got literally a minute. We got to hurry up and send this up. So real fast, who's pressing the panic button? Start with Jackson. Jackson, are you pressing the panic button?
I'm not pressing the panic button. Not
Tyler,
yet.
Tyler, you aren't either. I know that. Kyle.
The schedule's way too hard. I would press the panic button.
Okay. I'm gonna, if they don't give the play calling back to Doug Peterson, I'm pressing it, man. I'm telling you right now, Indianapolis is looking pretty good, especially they're bringing back Jonathan Taylor. I'm starting to touch the panic button. Jags, what do you think? Last one.
I'd also say I'm starting to touch it, but I think it really depends on how we do in London, these 2 games.
For sure. Absolutely. I mean, this next game is going to be huge. All right, here we go. And for our final segment of our podcast of episode 2 of the No Fly Zone, we have a discussion to have. Jackson, just you and me, the original 2.
Yes,
the Denver
sir.
Broncos. Oh my God. Absolutely blown out. Sean Payton has a lot to say about everybody, and yet he loses 70-20 to the Miami Dolphins. What's your opinion on the Denver Broncos?
Look, this team is 0-3. They're giving up a lot of points defensively, and giving up 70 is just a whole new low, I think. And I just you got to think this is so many points being scored now. Your team scores 40. I mean, that is a great day. This team scores even 30. That's a great day. They scored 70 points against the Denver Broncos defense, and it's just the defense. Usually when these things happen, you think, oh, maybe, Russell Wilson threw a couple pick sixes. That didn't happen. Some special teams touchdowns. That didn't happen. It was just a complete, just dismantling of the Denver Broncos in that defense. And, I don't know how you're able to go back, if you're a player on that team, I don't know, how you, what's the vibe in that locker room? What is going on? Because it's hard to ravel my head around how bad this loss was for them. And I don't know how they're going to recover.
This is a tough one. I mean, they shore up the offensive line in the offseason. They had a pretty good defense last year. To lose 70-20 is embarrassing. Sean Payton, again, dishing a lot of, stuff towards Nathaniel Hackett, and then you lose 70-20. Look, I'm a fan of Sean Payton. I was a big fan of what he did in New Orleans, and everyone saying, oh, now was he, was the only reason why he was because of Drew Brees? I don't think so. I mean, it is tough it's tough to argue otherwise. I mean, because again, all his success was with Drew Brees. But I mean, again, they say it with Bill Belichick, which some people do. I just disagree with that whole thing. I can't stand when people say, oh, all the success was because they built something together. They did it together. But you look at the Broncos team right now, though. I mean, look, it's tough. You got the Bears this week, which, again, that needs to be a win for Denver. And that needs to be a win for Chicago. So, I mean, again, you're looking at 2 guys. I mean, they're not going to move on from Sean Payton, but they'll definitely be willing to possibly move on from Matt Eberflus if they lose that game. So that's a big game for both these teams. I think Denver, though, I think Sean Payton is making this team run extra laps this week. And I think that they're going to be ready to play against Chicago. And I think that you're going to see an absolute ass kicking this week because I respect Sean Payton too much to think that it won't happen. I really do. So, I mean, what's your take there? I mean, do you think Denver turns it around this week?
Look, I do think they will turn it around this week just because, like you said, Sean Payton, this team has to turn it around this week. And I think Sean Payton knows that. And Sean Payton's going to make sure his players do turn it around this week. I think they are getting, kind of blessed with their opponent. They're playing the Chicago Bears in Chicago, and they're coming off of more as a 35-40 point L against the Chiefs. So they're not on, they're not feeling good about themselves either. So this is a good game. It's a good bounce back game for the Denver Broncos, which I think is a good, it's a good thing for them because after that, the schedule does get way tougher.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you got 2 possible wins in a row. I mean, the Bears and then the Jets have a tough defense, but again, their offense hasn't been looking good. But then, I mean, again, you look at the rest of the schedule. I honestly don't know if they win another game. And I mean, if Sean Payton starts his tenure here at 0-17, which I don't think is going to happen, but again, you got to consider it might happen. It's not going to. He's going to win 2-3 games, maybe 4. Hopefully he win 5-6. I mean, that would be great for them. But at the end of the day, it's tough sledding for the Denver Broncos. I wouldn't push the panic button in the sense of Sean Payton needs to go, but I would say that it's going to be a tough year for Denver. So if you're a Denver fan, I'm sorry, just hang in there and eventually something good will come and show. I feel bad. Anything else you want to say? We got to wrap this up. The podcast.
Yeah, like you said, it's going to be a tough year. The way the season started for Denver, and then just looking at the schedule, very tough schedule. I just don't see how this team gets more than like 5 or 6 wins.
Yeah, 4 to 5, 4 or 5. You're really pushing.
That's probably the magic number.
Yeah, 5. I mean, 5. Honestly, they pull out 5. Sean Payton works something special because it is a tough schedule. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all from our week 2. I should say week 4, episode 2 of the No Fly Zone podcast. This is Nick. That's Jackson, and we'll see you guys soon next week for a whole nother version of the I almost said Fire and Flip podcast. Almost Survivor Story.
Almost. Holy crap.
From our No Fly Zone podcast. We'll see you guys soon. Peace. We are
built better.
Yes, and peace. 180. 180, set.
Hehehehe